Hero Club presents Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu.
Welcome to Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu, episode 63. I'm your host, Wheelchair21, and on this episode, we got nothing planned for you, technically. We got some stuff to discuss. It'll be kind of more of an open forum with some of the topics that have happened over the last few weeks and whatnot, but we'll get to that in just a moment, because I need to introduce my hosts with me tonight on this episode. First off, we have the Metal Ninja.
Hey yo.
And then we have Soundout12.
You never see it coming.
Yep,
That was
he's literally turned Persona 5 into his ringtone and text message notification sound. So now when he gets text from me, he'll hear it, and then he'll be like, I told you, hit me on Facebook Messenger, and I'm going to be like, rah! And it's going to be all penguin-y, like Burgess Meredith penguin-y. I hope my glasses don't break at the end of the world. Oh no, they broke in the end of the world, and we're in the Twilight Zone. So yeah, guys, this week is going to be really ludicrous since, we have topics to discuss, we have information to talk to the masses about, and then we're just going to, kind of just talk about products leading to, I guess, Tamashii Nations, since that's the gist of our lit list. Like, it's a pretty casual, mundane episode. Expect this one to maybe be under an hour with post-production and whatnot. And so let's start with, I guess, the smallest topic thus far, which is, honestly, we got the unveiling of the official Godzilla 65th anniversary logo, where it just says 65th, it says 54 to 2019, and it's actually showcased with the Shin Godzilla design caricature rubbing up against the actual numerics of the 65th anniversary. And it's actually a really nice, simple logo, I think. What are your guys' thoughts on the actual logo thus far?
It's a very nice logo, I do admit. It's very simple, straightforward. I actually probably like it a little more than the 60th anniversary logo back in 2014. I don't know, it just something about it just kind of pops.
It looks good. As far as logos go, it's a good logo.
I know, and that was like the first bit of news we got for, Godzilla 65 anniversary going on, because following that, we went right into the Godzilla constellation. NASA gave Godzilla a frickin' constellation, and we've had fan art for it as a Q Ranger. We've had fan art for it as, I think, a Saint Seiya Mythcloth. We've had another, a Godzilla Zodiarts so far. So a lot of people are being pretty interestingly designing the idea of, constellations in tokusatsu and anime and applying Godzilla to it now that he's an official constellation.
Someone texted me.
We didn't see that one coming. And I'm guessing it's Pyrus
didn't.
Masquerade or Darkon.
I think my it's not Darkon.
So it's Pyrus Masquerade.
Very possible.
Not very possible.
So anyways, though, like, what's your thoughts on the whole concept of the actual constellation? Because that's a little weird, because, like, NASA doesn't just give out constellations these days.
They don't really. There's a lot of other constellations that are kind of, I guess you could say, not exactly taught in schools, but are kind of recognized by, astronomical unions, and Godzilla's one of them. So it's hella interesting, needless to say.
But here's the question, though: how do you make a constellation in this day and age? Do you just go, "This is the shape"? Like, how do they do it? Is it like an actual guide?
They find, I guess, stars that aren't associated with any previous constellation, and then just connect the dots, pretty much. He's like, oh, here's Godzilla and his atomic breath. Why? Because that's how I drew it. So, yeah.
You know what's ironic is that Subaraya creates fake constellations all the time for, like, either their kaiju or their ultra heroes, or their ultra heroes are able to create, per se, an actual constellation with their magical fairies.
Persona?
No.
I heard the first couple of syllables, and I was like, and I was like,
no.
Just...
So what's your thoughts, though, Sada, on let's make a new constellation in this day and age? Because that thing is just like, it just boggles my mind. Of all things, you choose Godzilla.
I mean, didn't they give Goku or Dragon Ball like a couple like galaxy named things? There was something related to somebody.
Yeah, I remember like some anime or Dragon Ball did like get used in a reference to naming like a star or some kind of cluster.
Yeah.
Well, and Toriyama has an asteroid named after him.
Kamen Rider has one named after him.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Also, Kamen Rider got a spatial anomaly named after it before Godzilla, so.
There you go.
Maybe it's because Godzilla's just so big they couldn't figure out which stars to use.
Exactly.
Like, that's just still boggling my mind. But the best one yet is the one that I showed Visible Ninja, and Visible Ninja is gonna present to us now the Godzilla certification test. Like this
right.
news is like the best shit ever.
Okay. So, as part of the 65th anniversary celebrations going on in 2019, Toho is going to offer an official Godzilla certification course. And it's essentially just a test you take, and if you pass it, you will get officially certified as in the first round as a Godzilla expert. Now, there's beginner and intermediate level tests. Beginner level tests are just going to deal with, overall information about the character himself, as well as topics dealing with both the original 54 movie as well as Shin Gojira from 2016. Now, the intermediate test is pretty much, again, what's about Godzilla himself, as well as information from every single movie. Now, here's the interesting thing. You can only get into this test if you apply through their special website, and you're going to be in either Tokyo or Osaka on March 10th, 2019. And here's the thing. It actually costs money to take this test, because it's about 58,000 yen to take the beginner's level test, about 60,000 yen to take the intermediate test. But if you want to take both, you can get it for the bundle deal of like 98,000 yen. So, yeah.
So
yeah.
You pay money to take a test.
This is like they're expecting you to pay like it's an entry fee to a college or the SATs. That's what they legitimately think it is.
I know, but hey, you'll get certified as a Godzilla master, though.
But what does that give you in life?
A nice certificate to put
it gives
on
you
your
a
wall.
certificate and maybe allows you to actually, get your fanfics published or used in feature films.
Is this just like the NECA ambassador, or not the NECA ambassador program?
The what?
Maybe.
The what?
Oh, have you not heard?
I don't
NECA
think he
started
has.
this program since they have their products in Target stores now, where you can sign up on the website and claim a Target store, and then you go in 3 times a week to take pictures of the way the products are displayed, but you have to first clean up the aisle to make it look nice before taking pictures of it and sending it to NECA. And then once a week, there'll be a drawing for gift cards and other prizes, and every 3 months you'll get a $20 Target gift card.
It sounds like crack.
It sounds really cracktastic, but seeing that, like, for me, if I gave a rat's ass mostly for a lot of the NECA properties, I would be willing to do it only because, like, my grandmother worked in, stores like this, Targets and stuff like that, because she worked in James Wayne Ames as, like, a manager and floor manager. So, like, I got taught, like, the civil liberties of when you work in stocking, make sure all the aisles look nice, make sure everything's where they're supposed to be. So I end up cleaning up the stores when I'm not supposed to. It's like a weird compulsionary action.
I have that compulsion from working at Toys R Us, so I just do it automatically now.
For me, I was taught that at like a sort of a young age, and it also helps to find.
Well, here's the thing: you get to go in 3 times a week.
Yeah, I'm not going 3 times a week to my local Target. It's 30 minutes away, unless I work at that Target.
If you go every single week, then you get a $20 gift card after 3 months.
Well, I think they're assuming that for people who like maybe live like within a reasonable distance from a Target.
I'm like 5 minutes from a Target, and
well, yeah, like someone like Soundout who like lives maybe within like walking distance or like 5-10 minute drive from a Target.
I can hit up 3 Targets in 20 minutes.
Well, exactly. Like they're probably looking for more guys like Soundout as opposed to guys like you, Wheelz, where like your nearest one is like a half-hour drive.
Someone did bring up an interesting point online. Funko sends out representatives to check stores across the country and make sure everything's up to code. So instead of actually paying for a paid position, NECA's just hiring the fandom by dangling gift cards in front of their faces.
Here's the thing, NECA doesn't really offer a lot of things, so like the only people I see that care about NECA are sci-fi horror nuts, and it's like that's all
And
they
people
practically
that like
have.
just Godzilla.
And the Godzilla is so niche within the in their title and licenses. Like they weren't able to get enough of the monster licenses until just recently. NECA announced during San Diego Comic-Con, they're like, "Oh yeah, we finally got the licenses to make kaiju that are not Godzilla designed. So be on the lookout for that." And I'm like, "How long have you had this license though?"
Had it for 5 years.
And they couldn't even get, the Godzilla clones as a license easily. Like, oh, the license and IP for Space Godzilla, Mecha Godzilla. Like, you could,
Nope.
like,
They
what?
couldn't get anything but Godzilla.
And I'm not gonna lie, like, their figures are fairly good. Godzilla's not the best, but they're, nice, cheap, and affordable.
They're nice. They're nice, cheap alternatives to Monster Arts. They don't hold a candle to Monster Arts, even though the people on their Twitter account says that they're basically the same toys. I'm like, no. But
Oh, so you're talking about that guy Tony? Yeah, that guy Tony's a whack job.
yeah, he was
I
just
know
like,
I
yeah,
am.
well, you could pay 5 times as much for an equal quality figure. I'm like, no, Monster Arts are legitimately much better than your figures.
The only retail release that is like actually the best, cheap, and affordable Godzilla figure, like the best one so far, has been their GMK. The GMK is probably their best release.
Oh yeah, that was their pinnacle of quality there.
It is their best. Like it is the highest and best release of the product thus far. Like I think it's one of the utmost nicest versions they've made. Like it actually has a bit of a hand joint, has a lot of articulation. It's not really hindered by the mold. Like that is an issue that Monster Arts have too, is a hindrance in like hips, thighs, and tail. But overall, though, I think that the GMK is probably their best one. The Godzilla one, I've heard that it's a little bit skeptical, whereas
I have yet to buy it.
yeah, I have yet to buy it or see it. Whereas most people know it as the King Goji design, the King Kong versus Godzilla design, actually looks like it will be a nice trade-off if you cannot afford or just don't want to get the monster art. You know what I'm saying? It actually looks like it'll be the second best one since GMK.
They're nice alternatives, but getting some extra kaiju in the line would be really nice and renew my interest in it.
Oh, for sure. So, like, I did not know about the NECA one, even though we got sidetracked. But the Godzilla test, when Visible Ninja was reading it, because, like, at the time, I found the news, but I did not, I was busy, like, actually, like, editing audio, so I couldn't read and edit the audio. So, like, all right, Metal, you tell me what's going on while I'm editing Mike and Mike in the Morning.
Plugging our show, which debuts on Wednesdays.
Yeah. So, anyways, he's reading it off, and as he's saying the prices, I'm just like, wow, I might as well just go retake the SATs again than do that, because that's bogus.
Actually, SATs would be cheaper.
Yeah, because aren't SATs like a $45 entry or a $30
Yes.
entry? So I mean, like, yeah, it's the price of the intermediate one, but it's whack to me. It's whack. I don't see what the point of the certification is. I don't think it's going to do anything special unless they actually stated that, oh, if you're actually a certified member, we might actually, and you're a writer or screenwriter.
If you're
or
a
book
certified
writer, yeah.
member, you get to work for Toho. That would be worth it.
Yeah, exactly. It would be a great
pay your
idea.
way into Toho.
It'd be a great pitch. Like, oh yeah, this pays if you get certified, you pass the test. We'll actually consider you helping us work on MonsterVerse.
Which may be what they're trying to do, but they're just not saying it outright.
Well, and quote unquote limited edition goods will also be available for purchase at the test taking sites. So there's that too.
You get something for taking the test, like you're like, here, have a T-shirt.
No, but they're expecting you to pay for those things when you get there too.
Well, like
So
I said, for sale. They said.
So
So.
it's like the DC Universe thing of exclusive action figures, but that's also you're just paying normal action figure prices. It's just only in this one shop. I'm never paying $40 for a figure with no accessories. I'm sorry, it's not happening. Anyway, that's a
But
side.
yeah, no, like that's the thing, like
It's
where
like
I find it
pop-
really weird. Like I found it weird. I found it funny because like, I mean, even Ultraman, Subaraya did a goddamn contest and they stated, we want you to write a screenplay for us, like a pilot to a TV show that's not Ultraman related, that's not Ultra Series, that's not anything related to our already existing franchises. But we want to see if your style of writing captures, like, Kinjo style, the guy who helped write most of the first 3 Ultra shows, Ultra Q, Ultraman and Ultra 7. Like, they actually did an award, and they were like, we'll announce the winner of the award in, like, January or whatnot. You get an award, and if your pilot is even good, we may actually make it into a short film, as well as maybe if the short film does well enough, we'll actually hire you to write a full series and assign you to work on the next Ultra franchise or whatnot, or to work at
I think
Subaraya full
Madhouse did
time.
something similar. When, like, a few years ago, I think Madhouse did something similar where it was like, oh, come make an animated short with us or whatever, and then you might get picked up for a TV run.
Yeah, no, and that was what I thought was really cool, because, like, the funny thing, too, was when I was reading their instructions, they were pretty vague about the, I believe his name was Kinjo Award or whatnot, the Golden Egg. They made it so vague that all they stated in the rules was, like, it had to be, like, fully comprehensible Japanese, but, like, they didn't say that you had to actually be living in Japan to submit it. So I was like, oh, so I just need to find a friend that knows Japanese to translate my English into Japanese and then, hand it in for me.
My friend Google Translate.
I wouldn't even use that because it would come out broken. Anyways, though, yeah, no, like, it was funny, the test. Like, I thought that was one thing that just boggled my mind. But it's not as mind-boggling as the one topic everyone is talking about in the tokusatsu community, specifically if you're a Kamen Rider fan. And that is none other than Shirakura's, should we say, questionable quotes and thoughts and ideology towards promoting Rider in the West.
I just gotta say, I think he was trying to be stealthy about being on Twitter, because he doesn't actually put his own name, like, in his bio or anything, but then people found him out, and then the Toku Twitter fandom, like, swarmed him like gnats to a flame. Sorry, moths to a flame.
I think the biggest problem for him was the fact that he shows that he knows at least basic English, like, enough that he can carry a full, like, pseudo conversation. Like, he's
that
very
was his
coherent.
downfall, because now he's just been bombarded.
He screwed himself over. He shouldn't have ever addressed in English, or just made vague English statements, or not made it even look as if he could know, like, because, like, here's the thing, he does have some broken dialogue, but overall he does understand the English language pretty damn well. So for those who don't know, if you're not following the story or oblivious, he literally wrote that he thinks that there isn't truly a market for Kamen Rider in the West. And then he went back, and after, like Soundout said, Moss to a Flame attacked him or gave him actual good criticism as to why Kamen Rider could be brought over, he kind of said, well, that's not our majority right now here in Japan. Like, we will try to do it one day, but Super Sentai is the more successful one in the West because it was adapted as Power Rangers. And that's the thing, is Toei doesn't want to just give the Americans or North America or the Western people Kamen Rider. They are expecting us to adapt it like Sentai and for it to pick off as a new property in North America and go
Because they make a heck of a lot more money off of Sentai being adapted to Power Rangers than if they just brought Sentai over on its own.
It's true.
Yes, even though the DVD sales are actually doing quite well. Kamen Rider could not stand on its own 2 feet here in North America, whether it was because of the bad adaptations or on its own, because as you've heard on this podcast and you hear on other people's podcasts or you see on social media, not every Kamen Rider series is a immediate classic or a hit. Some are bad, some are good, and some are just left to each individual's own interpretation and opinions of the show. Like, there are some that are stellar, and then there are others that you want to
is
beat
not
in
as
the head.
consistent as Super Sentai.
And that's one of its biggest flaws. And that was something that me and Visible Ninja were talking about for weeks, because we wanted to approach this on an earlier episode when it first came up, which would have been, like, I think last week's episode. But
Yeah.
we chose not to approach it because at the time of us getting ready to record, Shirakura had not addressed the backlash he was receiving.
Yeah, and it was some pretty heavy backlash, too.
Now, here's the thing. My issue with the backlash was, while it was somewhat, just desserts, my problem was, because of how majority of the writer fandom is, they don't normally think to tweet. Like, they think with their heart rather than thinking with their brain. And so when they jumped at him, they were like, well, let me just show you all the toys I've imported from Hobby Link Japan, Ami, and our sponsor CS Toys. But they didn't say, hey man, I've watched Kamen Rider since this year, I've collected the products, and I've been watching the shows abroad. But they just were like, look at my toy collection, this means I watch your show. And I'm like, that doesn't really solidify anything because they don't get the markets from Bandai. Bandai doesn't get the sheets from where these stores are selling out the items to. They just see the toys are selling. So since there's no proof that Hobby Link Japan is the one sending them to North America, even though you can check their search engine, there's no real numbers that they can easily just collect from Hobby Link or Mr. S to prove where are these products going to. They just
Because
expect
once
that
Bandai
it's in
sells the
Japan.
products to stores, that's the end of the distribution train for them.
Exactly.
They go off the stores and
Exactly.
then stores.
But if you were to say, like for example, Matt Hunt, Dukemon, he and a few other people, like, actually gave good examples of to Shirakura saying, Mr. Shirakura, I can understand why you don't expect Kamen Rider to come over here due to failures such as Mask Rider or Dragonite, but there is a high market for it. Because of Super Sentai, because of Power Rangers coming over here, there is already a market that has been, opened up to other franchises like the Metal Heroes, Ultraman, and the Kaiju fans that were already here with Godzilla and that. And they were trying to say, how it can happen, but we understand it can't happen now. Like, there were other people who were saying, oh, just put it on Crunchyroll. There were other people who were saying, just put it on Netflix. Put it on Amazon.
Just put it on Crunchyroll and just put it on Netflix is like some of the most shallow statements anyone can make. There is a lot that goes into bringing a show over. It's not just, just stick it on there and see how it does. Because you have to pay people to translate it, sub it, and stream it. That costs money. And if they're not going to make money back from it, then there's no point in doing it.
Yeah, and like the funniest thing was everyone was like, oh, you shouldn't go to Crunchyroll because Ultraman failed there. Here's the funny thing, and this is what I found out from people I knew that knew people who worked at Crunchyroll. Ultraman wasn't, a financial failure at the actual streaming service. What ended up happening from what I heard was that Tsuburaya kinda, when they did the renegotiations to keep the shows they recently lost, Tsuburaya may have raised the price, and Crunchyroll just didn't want to keep the license because they thought at that point it wasn't as affordable as when they first got it, even though the Ultra Series viewings were doing good numbers. Now, some of the older shows that they did let go weren't getting as many good views. Like, I heard Leo and 80 weren't getting hit up real well, but Max and Mabius were still getting good frequent amount of views since they're more recent series, and the ones that they were immediately simulcasting or a part of the new generation of heroes have been doing fairly well. Ginga's been doing good, X has been doing great, Orb has been doing good, Geed was doing good. So it's like, if you're in the Heisei era of Ultraman, you did really, really well, at least for yourself, on Crunchyroll. But if you were Showa, not so much, unfortunately. And I can understand some civil liberties of how the current tokusatsu community is, that they have this weird stigma towards Showa, but it's unwarranted nevertheless. But I get it, because I've seen too much of it since 2004, 2006, how the community is towards the Showa era, even to now. So I just have to deal with that issue. But a lot of people say, oh, it failed on Crunchyroll. But here's the other thing that people are forgetting. Crunchyroll's slipping up now, too. They're having issues with misrating the shows. They've had a few other issues over the past week or two. So honestly, I think Crunchyroll is going to fall on hard times, especially now that Funimation doesn't want to work with them anymore. They're like, yeah, we don't need you anymore. We don't need
Funimation
you.
had partnered with Crunchyroll originally because Funimation was trying to get their streaming service off the ground. And by partnering with them, they were able to get some boosts with some more popular shows, and then Crunchyroll was able to benefit from it too. But now with Funimation saying, well, we're secure enough, we're going to go international because we have Sony that owns us now, so we got plenty of money to work with. Now they're like, well, we don't need you, Crunchyroll, and that sucks for Crunchyroll because they're going to lose some shows, they're going to lose some people, and Funimation's going to do probably a lot better than them in the long run because they have the backing. Crunchyroll's currently technically owned by AT&T, which hopefully means that they can also get an influx of cash to work on stuff, but they're really going to be targeting anime more than Toku because anime brings in more revenue.
And over the last couple of years, they've been slowly stepping away from doing the typical J-dramas that actually also got them good revenue in the past.
It's just more of we got to focus on what is going to make us most money right now because things are not great, you know? Anytime a company goes through hard times, they're going to focus on what's been working the best, not try to keep doing everything.
Yeah, and like one of the things though that Visible Ninja and I were talking about, and I'm gonna want your point of view fully, Visible Ninja, because I can't
Right.
remember it all, is the whole issue of the fact that a lot of Kamen Rider fans we've been noticing that were affected, or the ones who were very vocal and too outspoken and too belligerent and too ignorant and too rude towards Shirakura, they don't look at the facts that Kamen Rider has an element where it unfortunately isn't now in the reverse of Ultraman as the redheaded stepchild, at least in the West. Like there's an issue with how can you do it, and I want to hear what you were saying from last week when you and me were discussing, because I can't remember everything you said, but I want you to bridge my
Well,
memory.
if I can remember what I said. Oh, no, but I remember the gist of it is, yeah, because, well, not to put too bluntly, like you said, Sentai's been over here as Power Rangers since 93. And Saban wanted it to be, over here sooner. But, things just, got in the way until Jew Ranger came along. But Power Rangers is established, and I guess you could say Sentai has been able to slowly claw its way in with the Shout Factory DVD sets and such.
And now
Because there is obviously an audience there. I mean, their actors are coming to American conventions now, especially Yuta, Michizuki and Reiko Chiba, since they are kind of, come to at least one or two American cons a year now. The other members of the Jew Rangers have come. We've got other guys like Kenshi Wada and Teruzaki, what's his face, Ninja Red slash, the Black Knight. And Ultraman also has a bit of an edge too, because it's been over here since the 60s. Because when they dubbed the original series, and then when they did when Turner did Ultra 7.
and they also TaJa.
Yeah. So even, and of course, yeah, there's the Fox, the Fox Kids dub of like the first half of TaJa, which
It was four kids. Do it
four
right.
kids.
It aired on Fox.
It aired on Fox. Well, yeah, the four kids dub of TaJa. Well, although they only did like half of the series, but still,
But ironically, because of their illegal work with actually Funimation, they released the entirety of the show on home video that I did not know of in its original uncut context.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they have a bit leg up, like I said, because Ultraman's been around. Like Ultraman, like I said, has been around since the original dub in the 60s. There was, well, at least in Canada anyway, because we actually got Towards the Future here in Canada, so we got to watch that.
Yeah, we had Powered and we had Towards the Future too.
Yeah.
You know.
I don't remember ever seeing Powered. That's not to say it never aired in Canada. I'm just saying I don't remember it. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say just let's get to the point.
But
of,
basically,
like,
Kamen Rider doesn't have the advantage that Super Sentai has through Power Rangers or Ultraman has through actually being brought over in the 60s and then kind of laying low but then resurging in like the public consciousness. Is Kamen Rider had Master Rider, which failed. It had Dragon Knight, which was objectively
Sabotage.
a good show, but it was screwed by 4Kids, and to the point where you actually had to go onto their website to see the last 2 episodes because they canned it like 2 episodes before the finale. And then it went on to do much better in Japan, but that's, neither here nor there. But basically those are the only 2 examples, really, not counting like weird shit like the ZO Sega CD game getting brought over for some reason.
Or the Kamen Rider, the first DVD that nobody knew about.
Yeah,
I knew about it.
Master Rider the first actually getting licensed by Media Blasters and put out here, although...
Also, Generation Kikaida put out Kamen Rider V3.
That's true, yeah, and Generation Kikaida. Although that was more specifically for the Hawaiian market, because at the very least, like I know back in the 70s into the early 80s, they got a lot of Japanese shows there. So, obviously because it's Hawaii, they have quite a decently sized Japanese, expatriate community there. So that kind of makes some sense. And I know that some California stations also aired like some like Ultra series and stuff too, like back in like the 80s, I think.
There's still some stations that still do, even as of today, and that also helped actually introduce, I think, Garo to Kraken releasing.
Yep.
That's true, yeah. Although again, like we're talking kind of small scale though, so.
I mean, let's not discredit Garo's like success in the West, mostly due to the anime.
No, yeah.
Like,
Well, yeah, the anime
opened
they
up
got
Garo,
Kraken,
and people started learning more about it from there.
and they thought, oh, it's actually based on a live action series. And then, people started checking out live action series. That led to Kraken releasing, putting out the
very inexpensive Blu-ray releases for being a Japanese show.
In funnily enough, chronological order.
But here's the thing that I want to just address though that you brought up though is that with Kamen Rider, yes, being like kind of not successfully brought over here, there's also the weird issue of that Toei has this expectation of we want a huge payout, so even if you fail, we still at least reap the rewards of the expectation.
Basically what Shirakura said was, like Power Rangers has that because of, Sentai has that because of Power Rangers, and it's like Master Rider doesn't have that, so there are no kind of plans at the moment, but it's one of those things of like we're dwelling on it, but no promise.
Yeah, because even at one time, Metal Heroes was a good money grabber for them in America, because you had the VR Troopers for 2 seasons. You had 2 seasons of Big Bad Beetleborgs, and it's like technically like if they had gone on a few more years, yes, it would have been a whole lot better, significantly been a whole lot better for them. But even in that mindset, VR Troopers are better remembered. Big Bad Beetleborgs are remembered, and they're part of their subcultures within a subgenre, you know what I'm saying, of Toei's Tokusatsu series.
And that's why they're trying out
like,
Metal Hero releases with Just Beyond.
Just Beyond, yeah.
Actually, the real reason, though, is because Discotech also distributes to Latin America, and because of the live-action Just Beyond sequel. Let's do that.
With Latin America under it, where the Metal Heroes, especially the Space Sheriffs, are huge, that makes a ton of sense. And like you said, with the Brazilian kind of live action movie coming out soon, I guess, they figured now's the time. And like you said, hopefully it does well enough to warrant maybe, more recognized Metal Heroes to come out, like maybe the Space Sheriffs or other popular ones like maybe Spilvan or, Jiraiya or...
Jiraiya's not a popular one. Get that out of your head, Metal.
Well, no, I'm just saying.
I mean, like now in recent days, he's now a cult classic, but like the irony is he never technically was until, hey, let's use him in Ninja, yay!
Well, okay, like I said, okay, what about the Rescue trilogy or the Beat Fight?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like this is the thing, and I'm probably gonna get flack by this, because like when I look at it, when I've looked back at Metal Hero, and I've heard a lot of people who even love Jiraiya or Metalder, I've heard that they're like the black sheep of the herd. Yeah. Jiraiya and Metalder and G-Bon, Blue SWAT, they're all black sheeps of like the herd. Hell, even Jam Person is the black sheep. Like they're like those ones who are like, oh, they did mediocre here in Japan, but internationally the other shows kind of went off because they had adaptations, they had dubs, they had broadcasts.
Hey man,
yada yada
yada. Person
yada.
fights for justice.
Oh god, but no, like it's just one of those things where I think that the one thing that I've noticed is that there's a weird issue in the Tokusatsu community where, like, you always have these branches of, like, the weird purist or the weird exclusive, because, like, there's the people who are like, oh, I only watch Power Rangers, I only watch Sentai, I only watch Power Rangers and Sentai, I only watch Toei Tokusatsus. But then there's, like, that really weird niche that I do see getting more vocal on social media quite a bit are the I'm only Kamen Rider, fuck everything else. Mm-hmm. And I find that very, very funny, is that the solo Kamen Rider people are like the most arrogant out of all of the I'm only exclusive to this show. Do you know what I'm saying? Because like the Sentai guys, they only get arrogance towards the Power Ranger guys, whereas the Power Ranger guys get arrogance towards the Sentai guys, but they never get, overly outspokenly arrogant towards the Rider guys, the Metal Hero guys, the Ultra guys. I always see, for some reason, the exclusive Kamen Rider fans, like, it's the only show I watch, are the most, very asinine assholes, and it's all because they all say Kabuto's the best. And that's the thing I've also noticed. If you're a Soul Kamen Rider fan, sometimes they always say Kabuto is best writer. I don't know why, but have you guys noticed that weird niche cult following?
This is very true.
Yeah.
And I think it's because Kabuto's a narrow-minded show, just like people are when they cut themselves off from every other toku. Like, you got to be open to other things. It's a genre. It's not just one show. Like, sure, you can draw the one show, but stop being so arrogant about it. Like, you can't just be like, well, this is the best franchise ever, so I'm never going to watch anything else. It's like, well, you know, maybe you don't want to close yourself off from the possibility of other things.
You know, like, and that's a sad case is that that's why I'm kind of saying is that right now in this day and age, I remember the old joke was on Henshin Justice is, oh, Ultraman's the red stepchild, but now it's Kamen Rider's the redheaded stepchild, and it's funny because people hold them up there because like there's the old saying of the big three of Tokusatsu are the two Toei shows, Sentai and Rider, and Ultraman. And technically now, like, with an asterisk, Garo is the fourth one since Metal Hero is dead.
Yep.
You know? Like, it's pretty much... well, I wouldn't say Metal Heroes are dead since they're sort of, like, they just come back every so often.
Oh, yeah,
so,
'cause of, like,
pretty much
space clock and such.
Garo... Yeah, because Garo kind of took the spot of the de facto fourth, where Metal Heroes are now the de facto fifth.
Well, because they only
You
do
know?
movies and stuff. Like, they don't have their own TV shows, so it kind of alienates them from the rest of the crowd.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I just find funny is that, though, with Kamen Rider, while it is one of the oldest franchises, it's still one of the hardest ones, I think, to adapt. Like, it's one of those things where I think the Showa era shows, if they were given an anime series for at least the legendary 7 Riders, I think it could help reboot the idea of bringing the shows over. For example, and this is going to sound weird, I feel like if you did an anime that was almost in the style of the 2001, 2002 Kikaider anime and do it based on Ichigo to Stronger, like an entire OVA series where each rider gets like 5 episodes apiece, and then the final part of the like part 8 is like a full like 25 episode show or something. You know, you can be like, oh hey, it's all of the riders together fighting Shocker finally and bringing them down. Would be a cool idea and concept where you could then get the idea to start bringing over said Showa riders and bringing over their Heisei counterparts.
It's working. It worked for Garo, and now it's currently working for Gridman. And so the thing is that I think that with Kamen Rider, because it's hard to actually adapt it, just like live action Garo would be impossible to adapt. If you do an adaptation that enters another medium and brings itself into otaku culture more, you're getting more casual people to watch. Just anime people that watch every anime that comes out every season. You just get a cool looking anime, they'll probably end up watching it, and then they'll probably get interested in the rest of the franchise.
Mhm.
The other thing that I gotta say is that when it comes to Kamen Rider, I wonder sometimes with people that are strictly Kamen Rider people, is it just because the toys are cool, or is it because you actually really love the shows that much? Because I've noticed that
That's a good argument. Is it the shows, or is it the concept that isn't even apparent in the show anymore that they love?
right, because the thing is that like when I'm looking at like comments towards Shirakura, when people are talking about, oh look, Kamen Rider's popular in the West, look at all the toys I have, I'm like, you know that, you know, this franchise is more than just toys. Toys is what they focus on in Japan because that's the sales that keep going, that keep the whole thing going because that's where the money comes from. But when you're distributing internationally, unless you're going to distribute the toys internationally, there needs to be a good following for the actual shows, and people are willing to put their money where their mouth is. The thing is that what we're forgetting when we talk about bringing Kamen Rider over to the West, Amazon's has been brought over. It took way too long to the point where everyone already saw it in fan subs, but Amazon's did get brought over, and from what I can tell, it's not necessarily doing pretty hot. Being on Amazon Prime does make it a little bit more of a limited release, but it also is something that I don't see people going out and trying to support heavily because that might actually help our chances of getting more Rider in the West, but yet people are just kind of like, oh, well, Amazon's is up on Prime Video. There's no big outcry to, oh, we got to binge this to let Toei know that, you know, we want this stuff. Instead, it's like, oh, we got to buy more toys. And that's, I think, kind of misguided in that regard. Let's always remember the power of fandoms in America. what caused Young Justice season 3 to happen, because people kept boosting the numbers for the first 2 seasons on Netflix to show that there was a market for the show outside.
And even then, when they tried to say it was going to exclusively to Netflix, DC was like, "No, we got our own service now, so you're not getting it."
Yeah, it's going to be Netflix in the other countries, since DC Universe doesn't exist outside of the U.S.
Yeah, but it's still kind of a weird thing is that Netflix brought back the show, but it's not actually airing on Netflix in our country.
Right, unless DC Universe folds, which is always a possibility.
But yeah, no, like that was the one thing too that I haven't an issue. And it's like I know I'm calling out people, but the problem is though, you gotta also look with an open mind, like we've been saying, is that if you want to come over, there's so many things you have to do. You have to stop saying about it, oh, I have to buy more toys of Ryder to make sure Ryder does good. No, what you need to do is when it is officially licensed, maybe go out and purchase the official license. Now, I'm not saying flop down the 150 or the 160 for the Generation Kikaider, but it's like, if you got the time to maybe do a short subscription run on Amazon to watch the Amazon thing to boost up the hits, to give it the views, do that. If a friend lends you their account, or you have a, one of those sub accounts like you have on Netflix, like this account, this person, and then it's able to let you watch on Amazon TV or whatever, whatnot, or Amazon Prime Video, go and do it. Give them as many views as you can. However, the issue here is it's not the toys that help the show if you want it in the West. It only helps how it does good in Japan. The other issue is like what you were saying, Soundout, is, God, I'm trying to think better about this, is the fact that, no, this is what I was saying, is that there is this weird belief that a lot of people still say Kamen Rider is this great show where it's about a lone warrior fighting evil by himself with allies that support him that don't have the powers he has.
That has been
but
true
there's a
since
problem.
Kuga.
That it hasn't been true since like Kuga, because even though in Agito they did do a storyline where there were some people that didn't really have power, there were some people that didn't have a full maturity of their powers, everything afterwards, everyone has powers. And whose actual fault is that? Shirakura's. So isn't that funny that he unintentionally destroyed the concept of what a writer is by the Ishinomori standard. Fans love his shows, but also hate him because of the stuff he does to ruin questionable good shows. And that's the funny thing, is that fans say Shirakura is this bad, evil SOB, which he's like devil's advocate, where one day, oh, you're applauding the show, but as soon as you find out he's a part of the production, as soon as you find out what's he doing to undermine this show, you're like, F that guy. And it's kind of the funny thing, and that's like about show business too. It's just that, like, he's doing this because, one, it's his job, two, he thinks it's this way or it's his way or the highway, and it is a double-edged sword, because as you can see, he has, effed up some shows. Like, there are people even in Japan, it's not just the Western community, there are even people in his native country that watch his shows and go, I think he did this show bad. I think he did this show dirty. I think this writer did that show dirty. And it's not every time does a producer purposely have the mindset of, I'm going to kill a show, I'm going to destroy this show even though I started this show. Sometimes they don't even realize they're doing it, and sometimes they pull out of the production and their name is still listed on it, because that's happened several times. It's happened in quite a few writer shows where at the end of the series, Shirakura is the one who changed the style of Hibiki. He didn't like it, and so he forcibly changed it.
Yeah, and this is the thing too. When it comes to Kamen Riders, we talk about, one writer standing alone hasn't been a thing forever. It's because toy sales have taken over that franchise so much that it, like, shows like Gaim, which had, freaking Gen Urabuchi writing it. And it's like, this guy is like a legendary anime writer. You should probably just let him go, because this will actually produce a good show. But it came down to, well, you can't do this because of this toy. You can't do this because we can't release this toy yet. You can't do this.
You can't do this because this character's popular.
Yeah, you can't kill off this character because they're too popular. You can't do this because it's like, after a certain point, with these shows, the reason why Sentai is more successful in show quality is because its entire formula is so perfected at this point that you get the toy marketing as well as you get the natural progression of the show. Nothing seems out of place. With Kamen Rider, they're trying this more anime approach of storytelling, and it doesn't succeed because you still have to stop and have the toy commercial. The toy commercial's not part of the formula.
Yeah, and the one thing that I also want to address too is that you can have a secondary writer, you can have a third writer, but I don't think you should allow them to overtake the show and be, in a sense, debuted too early on.
What I don't get is
For
the
example,
fact that, like,
it's just ludicrous.
what's ludicrous is ever since X-Aid, like, we've had, like, writers appearing sooner and sooner and sooner, right? And we're just having, like, all these writers, and then, like...
No, wait, did Ghost come before X-Aid? Because Spectre showed up in, like, literally episode 2.
Yeah.
Like, secondary writer.
Yeah, I guess so Ghost, but I didn't watch it, so I can't really say it, but let me just go with X-Aid.
I mean, they did that, like Ryuki did it, but then
Well,
Blade
Ryuki was
did
like, we're doing 13 writers. That was like their mission statement. But here's what I'm getting at, okay? The current writer shows, like X-Aid introduced writers so quickly, so fast, that it ended up pulling so much focus away from the main writer because there was so many other writers that were being introduced. And basically everyone would get a focus episode whenever they had a new toy to introduce. That's, how this works nowadays. The problem is that because there were so many secondary writers that pull focus away from the main writer doesn't get as much development anymore. And then to that extent, all the secondary writers each get like an extra TV special or a hyper battle video or a DVD bonus. And then in the case of X-Aid, every single secondary writer got a TV special, a Blu-ray bonus feature, or a hyper battle video, and then they all each had an additional movie where they combined them together. So you had like every secondary writer is getting 2 supplemental material and then still getting a ton of focus in the actual main show. So it wasn't really like the point of, oh, well, Brave didn't get a whole lot of focus, let's go give him a movie. It was Brave got a ton of focus, here's also a movie and a special. And so it kind of makes the main writer less special because of all the other guys around him. And what I've noticed is that within the fandom, the main writers aren't that popular anymore. More people like Banjo than Sento. More people liked, everybody over Emu. It kind of like loses that whole quality that writer has had for so long.
Yeah, and I think it's a huge problem. I think that's the reason why writer wouldn't naturally be able to be picked up by the Western audience, except if you're already a diehard like anime fan.
Not even
if you're a diehard
big Toku fan in order to enjoy Kamen Rider, because generally speaking, I don't see many people online that are like, oh, my first Toku was Kamen Rider. I've never seen that. I've always seen people that had started with Power Rangers and then maybe Kamen Rider, or Sentai and then maybe Kamen Rider.
The only time I ever saw people get right into Kamen Rider was if someone showed them, like, say, unfortunately, Kabuto, if someone showed them Decade, if somehow someone showed them Double, Gaim.
I rarely see people get into Kamen Rider as their first Toku ever.
No, I rarely,
but
I know people who have done
Power Rangers if they have not seen it already.
Like, I know people who said that, I've seen Power Rangers, but I wasn't really into it, but then they saw Kamen Rider and they got into it. But, like, I've seen how people say it was shows like Kabuto, Decade, Double. I've seen that. Like, I've seen people that say those are, like, the only shows that really, really hooked them. Like, they had seen Power Rangers, but they tapered off real fast, like, at the age of 6, at the age of 7, Like, that's what I saw. That's what I
And here's what I'll say on this matter, too, is that with Kamen Rider, when Western fans are talking about, we should get simulcast and everything, you really need to look at the franchise and decide, is this show good? Like, is this franchise as it is going to be successful in the West? Because, for one of the main reasons I mentioned this, you have to look at the show if you take away the toy element. Because most people watching the show aren't going to be buying the toys. They're not going to follow the toys. They're not going to get excited about new toys in the way that they're introduced now because they're all very shallow as look new toy. As typical fans on the internet will say, oh, look, that's the next toy I'm getting. I already have it pre-ordered. I can't wait to get it. So it's exciting to see it. But how does it look for an outsider, somebody that's not collecting the toys? How does the show hold itself to that regard where it's like, take the toy element away, what's left? And is it a show that's going to be good enough to watch as a full run, like to binge it instead of watching it weekly? Because who knows, maybe we won't get the shows weekly. It's a lot to consider because I think that Shirakura also knows that the shows can't really stand alone outside of the toy element.
I mean, with Power Rangers, by, bringing over Sentai now, most people already have the toys, and there's, Bandai who is reissuing some as legacy lines. They're making new figures based on those molds. Hasbro's planning to do it. Japan's releasing, what do you call it? Soul Chogokins, Mini Pla. So it's like there's so many ways of actually still getting those products. But when it comes to Rider, they don't really reissue a lot of stuff unless they're Figuarts.
And CSM. Figuarts and CSM.
And CSM, yeah, exactly. Visible Ninja, what else do you have anything else to add to that? Because I want to move on to our last
not
final
really. So
topic.
let's
Speaking
just-
about Bandai Tamashii.
Not really, so let's just move on.
All right, so that's all really I can say. Really, is that when it comes to the product of Kamen Rider, Shirakura isn't wrong. Toei isn't right either. The home office is wrong and right at the same time. And I think the fandom just needs to look at it with a more level head. Like, if you're into a lot of tokusatsus, there's other shows you can watch right now and enjoy legally, and you can support, and just wait for when Kamen Rider happens.
High Dive just joined Verve, so Garo is going to be available to all the Verve users out there.
So yeah, maybe you should consider getting a subscription to that then. But so, the one thing we wanted to actually talk about is why you've heard us talk about Tamashii Nations throughout the episode in subtext and as a, I guess, overall part of this episode, is the fact that we finally got the ghost of Figuarts past, or the ghost that never was, or the rider that never technically
Or the toy they've been avoiding
happened.
to make 10
Yeah.
years.
We're getting S.H.Figuarts Kamen Rider Kiva. And it's ironic since other Kiva memorabilia, other Kamen Rider memorabilia, have been shown as Figuarts in the past, and there goes our entire recording, most likely. Anyways, as we were slightly interrupted briefly by our other co-star Mucha, who will not be in this episode entirely unless he has any wisecracks to say.
I have
Like I
nothing
said,
to
with
say.
this,
There's nothing to say.
yeah, exactly.
Get out of
Well,
here.
we're getting
Come back later.
No.
We're getting S.H.Figuarts Kamen Rider Kiva, and it's like
I
like
came
I
at
was
the right
saying
time then.
before. Yeah, it's been eluding everyone. It's been eluding everyone that's wanted it just for the collection piece, for the collection value. And there's other characters thus far. So, yeah, Santa, let's address the whole Kiva fiasco and the joy of at least now people can finally have all 10 riders in Figuarts form, or should I say all 20 Heisei riders in Figuarts form.
Hey, anybody that wants to have this figure, be sure you pre-order it, because oh my god, this is going to be a nightmare.
I mean, the show was a nightmare if you have ever watched it.
I mean, this is the last main rider, and because of all the memes about it for the last decade, and all the asking Bandai for it, it really has come down to the fact that this is going to be probably the most in-demand Figuarts of, like, the last 5 years. And I'm not even kidding, because that's what it feels like right now, with how much people are freaking the hell out about it. I really think that Bandai may have pulled their biggest marketing move to make the highest selling Figuart of all time, and I certainly hope they're going to overproduce these things, because otherwise there's going to be rioting in the streets in America.
Because here's the thing, it's a well sculpted mold. It's something that I'm glad it looks that damn good. I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of Kiva, but I've always loved the suit.
I have one complaint.
I used to like the show, and that's about it. I don't know what else I can really say.
I have a complaint.
What else do you... What?
For all the talk about the chains in a blog post when they announced Seiho Garo, it doesn't look like they actually used real chains on the figure. It looks like they're just kind of molded plastic, which really seemed like a simple solution to the whole problem and could have been done years ago.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to relook at it because I didn't take a full.
I
glance
looked
at
at the
leg
chains
part.
and I'm like, those don't look like real chains. Now they may be on the final product, and this is just like prototype stuff, but it really did look like that they actually ended up going to option without real chains. Because I think the chains on the foot was like a thing they kept talking about, how it kept impeding articulation. And that was like the production snag that they mentioned in the Garo post. But yeah, after all the talk about chains and putting chains on all kinds of other figures, we're looking at probably not real chains, but a good substitute that's not going to hinder the actual range of movement.
Right. Yeah, like for me, I don't know what else I can say. I know Metal probably is not going to say much because it is a figure art.
It looks very nice, and in all, it looks quite awesome. Now we just gotta wait for SHF Machine Kiva and Baroon Booster.
Now, this is the thing that I wanted to talk about too, is that like while we've been waiting for so many years for this figure art to release, there are so many unmade figure arts that have not been made, like Saga, what is it, G3 Mile hasn't been done yet, Muteki hasn't been done yet, and that was just recently. Almost every other writer in Gaim, because we're still missing a few, and they're mostly the movie writers. We've had Metal Heroes, we've had Sentai, and it's just so funny that, like, Bandai will make all these prototypes, then never go forth to execute them. And it's kind of ludicrous, because when it comes to Monster Arts, they were a little bit more safer with the Monster Arts brand than they were their own regular Figuarts brand, or even the Ultra Act brand, because the Ultra Act showed, like, at least 8 different prototypes that I think out of the 8, only 5 of those never got made. You know?
Hey, Bandai, we're talking about Talder and Reboot Kikaider.
Wait, did they have a prototype for Reboot Kikaider?
Yep, he was standing right next to Metalder.
Oh shit, he did. He did. Yeah.
We also, I think, Jan Person was another one shown. There's a few others.
We had Kabutak. There was a Kabutak one, if I recall, too. A Kabutak figure.
Yep. Not to mention our damn Jetman.
So here's a good question, guys. Out of the unreleased stuff, or the stuff that they said they would do, what are items you would want specifically? Like, at least out of 3 items that they've prototyped that you want them to do.
And make it realistic, so no Sentai, because we know those are never happening.
Yeah, Sentai isn't happening.
They don't care about
Sentai. They're like, it's dead.
It's over,
dead.
Johnny.
It's
over.
dead, Jim.
So Visible Ninja, I guess you start us off, because I can't remember if there were any Monster Arts that were canceled, because I think they've done them all.
Well, considering the fact they've shown but haven't done Yamato Takeru, they haven't done any of the angels from Evangelion that they've showed off. So there's those.
You mean Gridman?
No, they actually did Gridman, but
No. Gridman's Evangelion, right? That's the whole thing that's going on with the world?
yeah, totally. Totally, absolutely.
That entire joke is funny, but weird because it makes sense. Because Ava is related to Ultraman, and Gridman's tech support from Ultraman. It's very self-fulfilling.
I feel like you need to explain that joke to Sound Out during Mike and
Oh
Mike.
God.
Guys, breaking fan sub news. Someone started subbing Heisei Ultra 7.
The Madmen.
That's interesting.
Madmen.
Yay?
That's mad.
And it's 6
That's
subs,
mad.
so it might actually get finished.
Absolutely.
You mean it actually will get finished, not might.
It will, and it probably will happen in like the next month.
Or watch it be already done tomorrow.
What will
They
come out
said
first, the
episode
sub
a day
or the
and stuff
Clevo?
like-
But yeah, no, Sound Out, what are your, 3 picks of stuff that they haven't done technically?
My 3 picks would be Reboot Kikaider. That's my number 1, I think. I'm probably forgetting some, but I'm just going to throw more out. Probably I don't think they ever showed anything from B-Fighter Kabuto.
No, they skipped that one, I think. I think if anything, they just had Kabuto and they forgot the rest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Reboot Kikaider's number 1. There was some others. I think it's some of the Metal Heroes I wanted. But I'm trying to think of Kamen Rider, because there's been a few. There's some that they never even prototyped that I've wanted.
Mhm.
Like the rest of the Advent Beasts for Ryuki. I put number 2 as the rest of the Advent Beasts from Ryuki, because that just kind of felt really weird and incomplete. And again, if they would make any other Makai Knights beyond Garo and Zero, that would be nice.
Yeah, no, for me personally, out of the prototypes that we got, I'm gonna go with the logical choices of, since Ultra Act is dead, that can't work. Sentai's dead, that can't work. I'd have to say Metalder is on my list. I would want as well, probably, since we're getting the Kiva now, they're probably going to consider redoing Ixa, Emperor, Dark Kiva, and that, so do a Saga finally, since we already had a base prototype for him, just do a, Shinshoku Seiho. And I think my last pick, it's going to be more modern, because instead of using one of the Gaim Figuarts like Kamen Rider Jam, because I just like that design, even though it was only 1 episode, I would like them to actually go forth and make the either the prototype Ultraman TaJa that we had recently seen, or the uncompleted forms for actual Ultraman Orb, like the 2-pack that they were kind of hinting at, which was Burn Might and Hurricane Slash. Because that's one thing I'm starting to worry about, is that the Ultra Kaiju, they've all been released now that were shown at the recent Tamashii stage show, mostly as P Bandai exclusives, so that means everything on the list has practically been completed. But the Orb forms, and I believe the Geed forms, are the only ones that have been shown and have no dates whatsoever. and they went right into Rube, and they're like, "Hey guys, we're doing all these Rube forms, but you're not getting the other ones."
I like
that
how they
you
did Rube
were
backwards
gonna show."
too.
Rube's backwards releasing pisses me off.
Like the fact that they put the base versions of Ground and Wind as exclusive, but then the flipped versions as retail makes zero sense.
It's like someone was smoking crack that day at Subaraya and Bandai.
It's like
at the
someone at
biggest form
Subaraya
together.
mixed it up when they told Bandai what was going to be the base forms.
Maybe someone did mix it up there. Here's another thing though. What are items or lines that you would like to see like added to? Because like I know with you, you really want more Makai stuff actually added to like per se like a Tamashii Labs kind of thing. Because you've always been joking that you want them like the blades that they use to transform.
Yes.
And you want some more of the like the jewelry reissues actually a part of.
I would
Tamashii
also
Labs, like how they did with
love a
Zaru.
Makai Priestess brush, maybe Rekka or Jabbies, because that would be a really cool item. It wouldn't be too hard to make, honestly.
And Visible Ninja, like what are some items you would like to see added to either Tamashii Labs or Monster Arts or Soul Chogoku?
Okay. Yeah, this is going to be kind of interesting because there's really a lot you could do that I would like to see added. For one thing, and I know it's a long shot, even though I know we've seen a prototype for one of them. I would like to see some stuff from the lost Metal Heroes, Kabutak and Robotak. Even though we did see Kabutak's fight mode as a prototype at one point, but then nothing. Just because they're kind of kooky and fun, fun series.
Solo Chogoku and Kabutak.
I would be behind that actually, or Robotak if they actually transform. I would be behind that because the vintage ones can kind of get expensive as shit, and they have kind of interesting gimmicks. So the whole flip over and turn into your robot mode, or like explode your limbs and then turn your giant head into your torso for robot mode or fight mode or whatever you want to call it. Robotak, you crazy dog, you. Yeah, but that's kind of cracktacular. I mean, I would like to see a more modernized, like full-size Chogokin for Leopardon, though I doubt that'll probably wind up happening.
Don't worry, someone stole it.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, I know they already did a Soul of Chogokin for Leopardon, but it's not terribly huge. Like, it's still, like, fairly nice, and everything as far as, the Chogokin.
I mean, it was kind of, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, it came with a car and a giant vinyl Spider-Man, but, like, could it have just been bigger instead?
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying, is I'd like one that's more like the bigger sized, like, super robot ones, basically, like the Mazingers and the Getter Robos and such like that. And that's another thing I'd like to see more of, is some of the older Ultraman-esque heroes that we've seen, going way back when, like I'm trying to remember some of their names, like the original version of, like, what's his name, Mirror Man, or Fire. What was he called? What was the Fire one that Glenn Fire was based on called again?
Fire Glenn.
Fire
I think
Glenn, yeah.
Fire Glenn, yeah. I'm sitting there like, was it Glenn Fire? I thought it was Glenn Fire, Fire Glenn. I don't remember. I can't remember right
Like
now.
older,
I'm
or
trying to do
even
research.
going like further back, like stuff like I know it's through Toho, but maybe like a fig art for maybe Zone Fighter.
Uh-oh.
Oh, that would be nice.
Uh-oh.
Like Zone Fighter, so then you can pair them up with your Monster Arts and have some fun wacky time.
Oh my god, when they finally make Megagaro Monster Arts, put Zone Fighter with him and Gigan. Ah, good times.
Yeah,
Good times.
Exactly. And,
All right, well,
various-
I'm gonna rate. Oh, okay, you're not finished. Sorry. Continue.
No,
with
all
this
that's that was kind of basically it. I was just gonna say stuff like Spectre-Man and stuff like that too, but yeah, that's. Oh, and Toei
Right.
Spider-Man as a fig art would be
Okay,
nice.
so this is what I'm gonna say. Yeah, that'd be cool. This is what I'm gonna say, and it's gonna sound weird. I would hope somehow that Toho can break their contract with Konami and get the master license to the Chosei series, because I would love to see all the Choseis put into the Super Robot line, or the Super Robot Chogokin or Soul Chogokin line. I would love to see the all of them put in there. Garuda, Gun Caesar. I would love to see like all four of them put together and actually be able to combine with the giant totem thing, Visible Ninja. I can't remember what it was it Gunmajin or not? No, the Gunmajin was Guntress. Yeah, Guntress, and be able to combine with them and make the actual giant full form of the dragon. Like, I would love to
'Cause
see
I
the
would-
Fusion Beast King
I
die
would-
Caesar.
Yeah, I would like that, or the especially the ones from Caesar X with how their transformation system works might work good
But
as
like,
a
what I
solo
would what
token.
like, but what I would like though that's more plausible is, you remember when Bandai did that Millennium Falcon like metal build? Anyone?
Oh, yeah,
Like they did some
yeah.
Millennium Falcon thing. I would love to see
remember
Bandai
that.
create one for the Gotengo and the modern day Gotengo from Final Wars. I would love to see
Well,
those be
like
made.
Showa, yeah. Like Showa, like Atragon Gotengo, and then Final Wars Gotengo.
Hey, Soundout, could you maybe tune that down a bit? Okay. So no. I would like to see Gotengos being made in like the metal build line or whatever it's called, like the Millennium Falcon was built a part of. I would also like to see them maybe produce a lot of the, like I said, the original prototype Ultra Acts that they said they were gonna make, but make them in the Figuarts line as soon as possible. I know they're probably not the most popular characters, like Powered and Great, but I think it would be a smart idea to make all of the characters you said you were gonna make, but didn't make in that line now, and make it over here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it would be a lot stronger of an idea, and they could market around. I feel that with Ultraman USA being put on Blu-ray, maybe they can make a special 3-pack of Chuck, Beth, and Scott. And overall, I think the strongest thing they can try to do is consider redoing Sentai. Like, I'm highly doubtful they can ever do it again. I know they won't do it because it just didn't work somehow, but I would like to see them significantly consider it and try to redo it one day when they have a better mindset
So you have
on
to
them.
try to
because
convince Hate Saburo to resurrect the Akiba Rangers. That's the only way
no,
we'll get.
that's why they failed, was because of Hate Saburo and the Akiba Rangers. LOL.
No, Hate Saburo did nothing wrong, Williams. He's a good guy.
Don't
He's a
lie to
good
me.
boy.
Don't
He did
lie to
nothing
me.
wrong.
He's not even a real boy.
Guys, I just remembered the other prototype I couldn't think of that I wanted.
Megaloman.
Is
There you
my
go.
real number 3.
It's real.
The
What
Gal
sound
Geiger just never got.
Oh, there's a lot of things, whether it
Holy
be anime or
thanks,
tokusatsu. They're nuts.
You know what I want? I want Prism Ace, baby.
Who?
Prism Ace, baby. Come on.
Who?
Greatest character to ever exist for one episode and one episode only. Thanks to
Who?
Hate Saburo.
Yeah, I think you're making things up again.
I'm not making anything.
No,
up. I'm
no.
a-
You know what I
I'm-
want?
I'm speaking.
You know what I want? I want
Read.
the Ginga Men. I want the Ginga Men from 5-Man.
Yes.
Yeah. No. Even better. I want the puppets from 5-Man's Figuarts. Come on. Let's
Best puppets.
let's get down to business, baby.
The 5-man puppets is actual puppets.
No, I want them as
No, because here's the problem. If we made the 5-Man puppets as actual public puppets, people or reissue them, people are gonna be like, hey, I want the goddamn doll from that episode of Kamen Rider Double, and then everyone's gonna be like, no, you're gonna die.
That thing's possessed. In real life.
Or Maki's doll.
Bob Marley, woo! But overall, though, like, when it comes to, like, Bandai, it's a good thing we're finally getting Kiva. It's been too long, just like this episode has been, but hey, we actually went over an hour, most
Don't
likely
worry.
now.
Every time we say we're gonna have a short episode, we never do. So let's lie.
No, actually, last week's episode, it actually was shorter than an hour.
Well,
That's a lie.
No, it actually was shorter than an hour. Last
I'm
week's
pressing
episode was
X
like
to
one of those ones
doubt
where I was like,
this.
it was gonna be. Anyway, so, like, pretty much we've been on one wild ride. We talked about Godzilla.
We did.
We've talked about Shirakura.
Who?
We talked about
Never
Bandai.
heard of this.
And shut up, Mucha. And with that, we're gonna conclude episode 63 of Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu, a show where we had nothing. And we'll see you all next week for episode 64.
Into the stars, Godzilla, wherever you may be.
Hey, it's Wheelchair21, and thanks again for listening to an all-new episode of Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu. If you want to hear more content or see more content from the Hero Club YouTube channel, we're going to need you to subscribe, like, comment with some feedback, and share this channel with a friend. We also would like you to check out our website, hero-club.com, and follow us on various social media outlets just by looking up Hero Club for Life, as well as the stores you see are where we shop. Anyways, thanks again, and we'll see you all next time.